things I notice is every time I go to a social event, a party, a networking event, a barbecue, the conversation always ends up with, what do you do for a living, right? And I tell people I'm a lawyer, and at first they're very intrigued. And then they ask, well, what type of law do you practice? And I say personal injury, and then I get, oh. Nothing changes. And that's because of the perception of help ourselves, right? You sit home one day and watch TV and you'll see a million commercials about how much money a personal injury attorney can get you. But I want to talk about the perception versus the reality, right? So what's the perception? The perception is we're ambulance chasers, right? We file fraudulent claims and there are too many lawsuits out there, right? And like I said, we don't help ourselves with that, but this is the actual reality, right? The reality is, we help people rebuild their lives after life-altering accidents. We stand up to billion-dollar insurance companies for the everyday person. We fight for our clients' justice. That doesn't mean just money. And we tell our clients' stories in a way that the insurance companies can't ignore them. Now, what kind of cases as a personal injury lawyer am I looking for? I'm looking for car accidents, motorcycle, trucking accidents, falls on dangerous properties, dog bites, animal attacks, construction accidents, wrongful death, any type of accident where someone was injured and it wasn't their fault. So the backbone of what we do, and the first thing that we're looking for is liability, and we call it negligence. And I'm going to show you what the actual jury instruction is, because I only take cases where the other person is at fault. My client is not at fault, right? So if you were actually sitting on a jury today, this would be the instruction that the judge would read to you. Negligence means a failure to do an act which a reasonably careful person would do, or the doing of an act which a reasonably careful person would not do, under the same or similar circumstances, to protect oneself or others from bodily injury or property damage. Negligence may also mean assumption of risk. A person assumes the risk of injury, damage, if the person voluntarily or unreasonably expresses herself to such an injury or damage with knowledge or appreciation of the danger and risk involved. So that's what I have to prove, okay? So this is what a bad liability case is, something I don't want. Accidents where the person that calls me caused the accident, or they were at least 50% at fault. I'll give you an example. Got a call the other day and someone said, hey, I was in an accident where I was T-boned. I was going through the intersection, I was T-boned. I said, okay, well, did you have the green light? No, the light was red. Okay, well, what does that mean? It's your fault. Well, no, the other guy was going too fast, and if he wasn't going so fast, he would have seen me run the red light and would have stopped. That's not a good case. I'm not taking that case, right? Because I don't have liability, and in Colorado, you have to be more than the person that hurt you has to be more than 50% liable for you to recover. No dangerous condition. Example is I'm walking down the street, I step off of a curb, and I fall. I ask the client, well, what was wrong with the curb? Was there anything wrong with it? No. Okay. Well, you know, was it too hot? No, it was a normal curb. I just stepped off of it and I fell. Well, that's not a case. There's no dangerous condition. It's just a curb, right? So those are types of cases that I don't want. Also, the he said, she said, with no witnesses, no physical evidence, right? Then it's just a 50-50. I can't tell. I can't take that case. So the next thing I'm looking for is injuries, and the injuries have to be real. Right? You know, we've all seen the commercials with the guy in the neck brace who's faking the injury and playing basketball and doing all those other things. That's not what we're looking for, right? We're looking for real injuries, right? Broken bones, head injuries, sprains, strains. And the main thing is there has to be medical treatment, because I can't prove a case without medical treatment. So you have to go to the doctor and you have to get treatment and you have to have a real diagnosis, right? What I'm not looking for is cases with no medical treatment, cases where there's just property damage, and this is important because I get a lot of these calls, cases where there's emotional distress without any physical injury, because in Colorado, unfortunately, you can only recover for emotional distress if it results from a physical injury. Now, who pays when we file these claims, right? I don't go after individuals. I go after their insurance. So I oftentimes get, well, I don't want to ruin that person's life. Well, you're not going to ruin that person's life by making a claim to recover for your injuries, right? We're looking at bodily injury insurance. In Colorado, the minimums are $25K. We're looking at umbrella policies. We're looking at underinsured motorist coverage. I know I brought it up. Most people don't know if they have it or not, but you should have it. It will protect you in these situations. Commercial policies, trucking cases, businesses, and homeowners insurance policies. So that's what I'm looking to recover. I'm not looking to destroy anybody's life, take their house away, take their cars away, anything like that. I'm looking for their insurance. And what am I fighting to recover? The first thing I'm fighting to recover is your medical bills. You were in an accident, it wasn't your fault, you have medical bills, they should be covered. Your lost wages, if you miss work because of this accident, I'm looking to recover your lost wages. Your pain and suffering, right? The pain that you felt from the time of the incident till the time the doctor said you're okay or you felt okay. The things that you couldn't, lost some enjoyment of life, the things that you couldn't do in your life, right? Some of us have passions that, you know, identify us, they're our whole life, and that's taken away. So I'm looking to cover for that, and then permanent injury. So how do I prove this stuff? I do it through police reports, medical records and billing, tax returns for lost wages, photos and videos of your life before and after. I go through witness testimony. I talk to doctors, family and friends, and even the investigating officer. Now, it all comes down to one thing, and that's telling my client's story. So every case is about a person, not a file. I use the evidence to tell the unique human story behind the injury. And my job is to make sure my client's voice is heard, even when they can't speak for themselves. And this is one of the best descriptions I've ever read about a lawyer. It may be a little cocky, but it's really cool. It says, lawyers have taken on the role as champions for their clients and for their cases, not only to help those who hire them, but to make names for themselves and to make a living. But rather than seen as invulnerable superheroes, the average lawyer takes on a much more human and often less glamorous role of lawyer as gladiator in a relatively small circus or arena where they bash out countless skirmishes and pleadings along with some brutal sparring against opposing counsel in a very narrow set of legal combat. That's one of the best descriptions I've ever heard of a lawyer. So thank you. I don't know if anyone has any questions, but if you do, I can answer.